Hey, wait, is this thing on? Oh, it is. Hey guys, this is editor agent here, and I just wanted to inform you that we have a new goal, and the new goal is 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Yeah, I know it's a big goal from where we're at right now, but I believe in you, and you, the viewer, yeah, you. If you look down slightly, yeah, keep looking more. You see that? Yeah, that's the subscribe button. If you press it, you'll get notified about my videos and content. And every time I post, you will know about it. So yeah. And if you press the like button, you will show even more people about this spectacular content that you so love and enjoy. And also, just a random fact on the screen. There's just, new content that's going to come out when we reach 1,000 subscribers. I'm totally not spoiling anything, of course. But yeah, you know, editor editor agent, I guess, is probably writing some stuff on the screen. If he is, make sure you don't pay attention to it. Yeah, don't worry about it. I am not a sellout, by the way, so yeah, don't worry about what it says on the screen. Just completely ignore that. But yeah, I've wasted your time for enough. I've wasted your time enough. Unless you didn't do it. If you didn't do it, I'll wait. No, but like seriously, do it. Okay, so you probably did it by now. Back to your regularly scheduled program. What's up, guys? It's Agent What If, and I'm back again with the second part of What If Deku stayed quirkless but OP. I'm gonna just give you the second part because you guys seem to like it. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. We start off with Izuku walking right past Bakugo, who has just been completely baffled at the fact that Izuku seems so powerful now, even though he was quirkless so long ago. Izuku looks at Bakugo but doesn't really say anything to him and keeps walking past him. Bakugo, in his misunderstanding and rage, sort of, turns around and looks at Izuku's back, yelling to him, "So you're not gonna say anything to me?" And Izuku then stops, turns around, and says, "Why would I?" Bakugo then says, But you're quirkless. You can't have a quirk. I know for sure. If you did have a quirk, were you holding back this entire time? Did you think I was so weak?" Izuku then turns around with a smile on his face and tells Bakugo, "Of course not. It was never a lie. I'm actually quite thankful to you." Bakugo seems a lot surprised by this, and Izuku then says, "If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been depressed enough for my father to have to take me out of it. And that led me to my power, so thank you." And Bakugo then says, "So basically you're saying that you have a quirk." And Izuku then says, thinks to himself, "Oh right, I can't tell them. Yes, Bakugo, I do have a quirk. You, being the way you are, helped me awaken my latent power. That's why I have these abilities now." And Bakugo then says, "What are your abilities?" And Izuku says, "I don't think I really need to tell you that right now. It's really not in your best interest to know, nor in mine." Izuku then walks away with this really not very good answer from Bakugo, like given to Bakugo, but Izuku just continues walking away. We then skip to a day later when Izuku and the rest of his classmates in Class 1A are going on their way to class. Walking down the hallway, Izuku's walking down the hallway with his sword gone and in his normal school outfit. Izuku basically just goes to the door and asks everyone if they're gonna keep following him like this. They then all say that they're interested to see what he can do and they're gonna watch him like a hawk till they find out. Izuku then says, "Well, good luck with that. You won't ever find out." He then slowly slides open the door to see everyone in the class staring at him, and Izuku then looks back at them, wondering why they're staring so hard. Izuku then continues to walk to his seat and sees Bakugo staring holes into the side of Izuku's head. Izuku then looks to Bakugo with a smile and a greeting and says, "What's up, Bakugo?" Bakugo then says, "Don't talk to me like we're friends." Izuku then says, "Guess we're not. That's too bad." Bakugo then snarks or smirks at this. And then that's when Aizawa appears and tells everyone to get in their seats. Everyone's in their seats by now and is getting settled in. Aizawa then actually coughs a bit, clearing his throat, and then points to the board. Aizawa then says, "Look, here's what's going to happen. Today, you're going to have a quirk assessment test." And then everyone is kind of shocked, especially Izuku. And then Aizawa then says, "So, you are going to use your quirks to do these tests. And there's no really passing or failing. It's just more like a test. But it is your first test of UA, so definitely give it all you've got. This is the crucial part to your training in order to become heroes. I need to understand where you guys are at in your power." And then he slowly begins to walk away and closes the door behind him. Everyone then proceeds to get up when Aizawa then opens the door again and everyone's back in their seats, and he says, "Oh, I almost forgot. Also, meet me outside in 5 minutes and go to the gym area to get your gym uniforms put on." And then he closes the door. Everyone lets out a sigh, and then they begin to get up. Izuku gets up, walking out through the door after a couple of people have gone first. He begins making his way down to the changing area, and he gets changed and meets outside. Aizawa is quite interested in Izuku, especially because of the fact that he knows who Izuku's father is. He's actually one of the main founders of the heroes and their the technology that they make to like assist heroes with their abilities and stuff, like their the suits that they wear, like for Endeavor, so his suits don't burn, like fireproof stuff like that. He's one of the main suppliers and makers of their items and equipment. So yeah, as long as it's not really technological in too much of a capacity. Izuku, just really isn't interested and is sitting on the bleachers, just sitting around. He's watching as everyone does the test, and eventually his name gets called. Izuku begins to stand up, and he jumps from one of the steps on the bleachers to the bottom. Aizawa takes notice of this, and Izuku then walks up to them with his hands in his pockets. He asks Aizawa what he's going to be doing. Aizawa then says, "So you weren't paying attention? Too bad. Now you're just going to do the tests." Izuku then stands in a position, and Aizawa then says, "So he was paying attention." Aizawa then tells him to run as fast as he can using his quirks, and Izuku is against, let's say Ida, and Ida barely wins against him. Ida barely wins against him in a race. Izuku does the jumping and of course easily destroys that. He even does the grip test, and I don't even have to say it, easily destroys that. He does the leaping test, which again, well, it's not the vertical jump, it's just the jump in general. So yeah, he does that, easily clears it, only getting slightly outdone by Sue. Izuku then finishes, doing his tests and then begins to sit down. Everyone else goes through theirs while wondering how Izuku did so well. Aizawa really didn't learn any information because Izuku is not at all interested in letting anybody find out anything about him. So he's not talking to anyone, and he's not showing anything. Like I said, Izuku's basically Batman in this universe. He's a genius level intellect with detective skills and lots of knowledge about humans and how they hide stuff, and how they act when they're lying and things like that. So he's knowledgeable enough to know to hide the signs from Aizawa so that Aizawa can't tell. Izuku then basically just goes about his day. After this, they all go home, and then we actually time. Sorry for the abrupt pause. I had to go do something, but I'm back now. Anyway, we then skip to 2 weeks later, and this is when they are all in Aizawa's class, and Aizawa then tells them that they're going to be having the assistance of another teacher today in their activities. Then All Might bursts through the door and doesn't actually say anything because he just burst through the door, and everyone's a little surprised, but not really as shocked as they were in the original. So yeah, or canon. Then that's when we go to All Might explaining the way that the test, I guess, or the hero versus villains fight is going to happen. So he then explains that they're going to be basically going on different sides, a hero side and a villain side. The villain side's goal is to hold off the heroes for as long as possible until the bomb explodes. And the hero side is to defeat the villains or disable the bomb. They're going to be picking their sides by random, and they can't do it on their own. Then they are instructed by All Might to meet him out in one of the practice cities in 5 minutes. We then time skip to when everyone is there, and like I said, everyone's there, and Izuku has arrived in his suit, which his dad made him, which gives him better shock, it gives him shock absorption, not to a super powerful extent, but a decent bit. It gives him reduction to fall damage. It's immune to temperature extremes, and also bulletproof. So yeah, it's pretty decent. Anyway, Izuku then is within the crowd, and All Might then says, "Okay, I'm going to be putting it into a random calculator. I've entered your names, and we'll get the pairings." Then I guess you could say the machine does it, and he then says, 1, Izuku Midoriya and Todoroki and Shoto Todoroki. And then he then says, for the hero team, Izuku walks over to Todoroki and says, "I guess we're on the same team." Todoroki then says nothing and then looks forward and keeps walking. Izuku says, "Tough crowd." Then All Might says, 1, Bakugo Katsuki and Kirishima. And they both kind of just decide to work together. They don't really hate each other. They just work together. So yeah, Izuku then begins to sit on the side of the bleachers with Todoroki, trying to discuss a plan. Todoroki then tells Izuku that there is no plan. The plan is that Izuku's going to stay out of Todoroki's way, and then they're going to win. After this, they won't have to talk to each other or do anything. Izuku then says, "Okay, well fine, I'll take Bakugo." Todoroki then says, "So you're stupid alongside dumb." And Izuku then says, "I'm neither. I'm actually..." And then he gets cut off by Todoroki saying, "Look, there's no way you're ever going to be Bakugo. I don't know what kind of beef you two have from your childhood issues, but at this point, you're just going to get evaporated by Bakugo." And Izuku then says, "But that's not going to happen at all." Izuku then starts to have a slight bit of doubt, looks over to Bakugo, and scans him using appraisal, and sees that Bakugo is indeed, in fact, multiple times stronger than Izuku. Izuku then says, "What? How is he that much more powerful than me?" In his head, of course. And then he realizes that the only advantage he really has against Bakugo is speed and reflexes. He says, Oh, okay, Todoroki," getting out of his head. Todoroki says, "You're going up against Kirishima, but don't think Kirishima's a slouch either. He's also a bit more powerful than you. I think. I haven't seen you fight, but I'm pretty sure he's stronger than you." By the way, guys, everyone in this series is buffed a lot. To a certain extent, they're a lot stronger. So yeah. Izuku then basically says, so you're taking Bakugo and I'm taking Kirishima? What do you think Bakugo will be?" Izuku then, finished asking Todoroki. Todoroki then says, "Bakugo's going to be at the top. The strongest are always at the top. That's pretty simple. Kirishima's probably going to be right at the front. So what's going to happen is I'm going to let you go in first. Kirishima's going to go to attack you. After that, I'm going to quickly run up the stairs and block it off with my ice while I go deal with Bakugo. You two are going to be locked into a match. So don't think you can run away unless you plan on breaking my ice easily. If all else fails and you get knocked out, the ice will hold off Kirishima for a while, giving me some extra time." Izuku then says, "So he is kind of smart," in his head. Izuku then says, "Okay, let's get ready." Izuku then teleports his sword to his hand, and then connects it to his side as a sheet, holding it there, so he doesn't have to hold it. But Todoroki notices this, but says nothing on it. And then All Might says, "Are both teams ready?" And they both say yes. And he says, "The test may now begin." And Izuku immediately runs in there, almost pulling out his sword, waiting in anticipation for Kirishima's surprise attack. And Kirishima does exactly what Todoroki expected, jumping out in a downward attack. Izuku dodges, flipping to the side, pulling out his sword and having his stance ready. Kirishima runs at Izuku, and Izuku sees how slow Kirishima is moving, and he says, he's pretty slow. Maybe I can get a couple attacks off, since I'm that much faster than him. Izuku then ducks under his punch and starts slashing all at Kirishima, his stomach, knocking off a little bit of his hardening. And Kirishima notices this, looks down at him, and smacks him in the face, which actually sends him flying into the wall. Izuku actually managed to dodge this or block it with his sword, but he hadn't expected Kirishima to move this fast. Izuku thought to himself, how? I'm so much faster than him. How did he? It's because I got cocky. I didn't know he could move that fast. I guess I have to be careful with this one. Kirishima then says, wow, you did a bit of damage. I'm surprised. Especially since my hardening is pretty strong. It can even hold up to a couple of Bakugo's attacks. I'm a little surprised at you, Izuku. Let's see what you can do. And he begins to run at Izuku. Izuku then gets serious, pulls out and has his sword in his stance, and then he uses his first form. Izuku then says, first form, water style, reflective attack, holding his sword at a very weird angle, especially for a swordsman. Then that's when Kirishima throws a punch, and Izuku parries it using his sword and actually hits the hilt, spinning it around Kirishima's own wrist and being able to grab it again after he just parried his attack, and slices him twice using a quick motion, sending Kirishima back a bit, knocking off a lot more hardening. Izuku then looks at Kirishima with a deadly look and says, I have no intention of holding back. Kirishima then says, that's manly, I guess. So you kind of respectable. Then I'll go all out too. While they were doing this, Todoroki hadn't even moved yet and then said, they're probably distracted enough now at least. He then quickly uses his eyes to go up the stairs before Kirishima notices. While Kirishima gets distracted for a second, Todoroki covers off the stairs, and while Kirishima is distracted, he gets hit by the back of the hilt from Izuku, sending him flying a bit. Izuku does not let up, easily covering the distance by the time Kirishima opens his eyes and starts barraging him with attacks. He even manages to kick Kirishima in the head, which actually sends him to the side into a wall. Izuku just keeps on this merciless barrage, but Kirishima's actually managing to take the attacks pretty well, because these aren't charged attacks, these are just quick light attacks. Izuku then jumps back because Kirishima was about to attack, but Kirishima begins running at him. Izuku then decides that he's going to try to finish this, and he sheaths his sword and starts using both malicious intent and deadly intention to charge his blade with enough power to try to one-shot Kirishima. Kirishima starts sensing the deadly amount of intent coming from Izuku. Even All Might feels it, and everyone else outside can feel it, and Todoroki and Bakugo stopped fighting because they felt it. It was that much. He really had planned on chopping his head off. He knew he wouldn't actually kill him or actually chop his head off, but that's what he was imagining right now. And his sword couldn't tell the difference between his actual intentions and just his thoughts. So the sword got charged up and started to glow. The blade started to go with white energy, and Izuku hadn't even pulled the sword out yet, but he was standing in a position, a quick draw position, almost using his thumb to push the sword out, saying, if you step 1 centimeter closer, it's over with for you. Kirishima frighteningly steps back a bit, noticing how serious and how deadly the room starts to feel. It starts to get hard to breathe. Izuku then starts walking slowly up to Kirishima, maintaining this, and says, surrender or it's over for you. Kirishima decides that he's not going to go out in such an unmanly way if he was to go out. So he runs head first, using both of his arms covering his face to try to block the attack. Izuku says, It's over for you then. He then flicks the sword out of its sheath using his thumb, grabs it, and with one slash, with Zuko spinning and dodging Kirishima's charge to the side of him behind him, Kirishima falls to the ground with all of his hardening completely destroyed. Izuku then says, I guess you weren't that powerful then. Izuku then begins to start bashing away at the ice, but then he hears an explosion, a huge explosion, bigger than the other ones. This one seemed bad. Izuku charged up his sword again to easily begin breaking through the ice more and more quickly and quicker. Izuku then starts running all the way down the hallway up to the next set of stairs to see Todoroki flying by him, about to hit him. Izuku then lands to the ground, catching Todoroki's body. Todoroki gets up and says, it's time to end this. Izuku then says, of course. Izuku's charging up in an attack using his blade, and again the room starts to fill with such intenseness that it's getting hard for him to breathe. Izuku then focuses harder this time. As hard as he can, he starts focusing harder and harder and harder. And it gets worse and worse and worse to the point where Bakugo is seeing his own death in his mind. Izuku then keeps doing this, and it even goes out to the students in the outside just spectating, and even wakes Kirishima up out of his unconsciousness due to the fear. Izuku then begins to walk towards Bakugo. Bakugo then steps back saying, I surrender. And they automatically win, and Izuku begins to slowly release this intent. But with that, I think I'm going to end this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, all of that stuff. Also comment and other stuff, I guess. Peace.